stage here in the summer of 2023. I'm Initialize, and I'm joined by my brother for the first time in a little while, mate.
And you'll notice there's like no gap between us. There's no two separate webcams. He's here, I'm here, in the same place, and we get to finish off our group stage here in Group D. There is still the chance of a four-way tie. I had a tiebreaker yesterday, and it was absolutely nuts. We had like 46-minute games, and Ashib was saying his voice barely recovered. I've had a couple of extra hours today to recover because I wasn't on the first three. There's a chance of an extra 3 games today.
We're not quite there yet, but you can see the scenario is still well and
I'm afraid,
alive. We've got Go and MRS coming up next, of course, to us at 2-2. We just saw Unicorns get the win over NASA. But if things end up with that kind of four-way tie, we'll keep our eyes on that one because that does lead to some very interesting scenarios. But perhaps we should focus on this one because depending on how this plays out could affect a lot of other things as well.
Absolutely could, because, I mean, at the end of the day, these teams need to end up, in terms of that eventuality, at 3-3 each. Yeah. And effectively what would happen after that point is we go into a full bracket of single elimination, best of ones. We have 2 teams play off against each other on either side of it and go through that. But of course, we're going back into some of the highlights which went through today. These teams have pretty much given as good as they've taken against every other team in the group. The only 2-0s that we've seen coming through now are from NASA getting 2-0'd by Unicorns, then 2-0'ing, of course, Movistar Riders on the other side. Everything else feels very even.
It really does. Both of these teams have done pretty good things in terms of when they've been winning. When they've been losing, it's been a little bit scrappier. But you're looking at some of the talent on these teams, you're looking at some of the names on these teams and the history, and you go, there's a lot of people here who are wanting a bit more. And it was when we first saw this group draw, the group of death was what it was put at. And honestly, with the scoreline, it feels about right because every single one of these teams has been sticking a knife in every other one's back.
I think it's right that you bring up the history here, right? Because even on the team like NASA as well, top laner, Fabulous, he was playing at Season 4 Worlds. He has been at 5 international events. And yes, they did get 2-0'd, of course, by Unicorns Love, but in the Movistar Riders games, we can see that, of course, they've lost a couple of games to them as well to keep them in contention. Then we go to a team like Team Geo, players like Takui, players like Ragnar as well, which have been making names for themselves for so many years in the ERLs. These are household names in their ERL regions.
They really, really are. And worth pointing out as well, that I believe it's Movistar Riders that have the head-to-head in this one as it stands as well. They're 1-0 up, so
they won the first game.
Yeah, if they win this one again, they end up 2-0, and that can lead to some interesting moments in the tiebreakers as well. So do keep your eyes and minds on that as we get into draft here. Go banning away the Poppy to begin with, and it's the Ivan away by Movistar Riders. And I know you say this every time. Look, if a team plays Ivan, just ban it. You don't have to deal with that champion. Plays like no other champion.
I think particularly when you have an AD carry the level of Jezu, and then also Takui, who's very happy to play something like Tristana. Playing a double AD carry composition is infinitely buffed by something like a proficient Ivan. So taking that away, very important. Of course, a team like Geo with players like Ragnar, who has been one of the best top laners outside of the LEC, but still within Europe, has been such a big force to them. So many names across here that you have to pay a lot of respect to. But as you said, I mean, they didn't win versus Movistar that first time around. And with that in mind, you see that Isma getting a couple of those choice picks removed.
Indeed, but that means it's an immediate first pick Sejuani because of how good Isma's been on that champion. Linces, no stranger to something like the Sejuani, even of course, like say last year, we were much more used to seeing him on the carry options and the Talia options, which has been banned away. Though of course, Takui plays that one as well, so suspect more towards that mid lane option. I am seeing a Kled hover. I doubt it's going to be a blind Kled.
Well, you say that we have had a couple of Kled players, of course, in the league. Acidy has had it banned away in the first rotation multiple times as well, over on the side of Matchgo. You can't necessarily pin down entire champion pools in ERLs. I think, actually looking back through the history of this tournament, this is where, even when it was out of meta, stuff like Xerath was being played. Stuff like random champions would crop out of nowhere to fit the draft, but of course, it's much more standard here right now. It's going to be Ragnar, take away from Ragnar, lock in for Marky as well, and Ragnar is a very proficient champion. Of course, it's a strong pick for Marky as well. It allows you to take away something like the Sejuani Renekton. My issue now is what happens if Ragnar does go towards something, even like the Cassante is kind of nasty with the Sejuani, but you could also go towards something like a Jax too if you're feeling a bit more spicy.
Exactly that, but they are, I think, as it stands, debating perhaps that Rumble that's locked in for the side of Ragnar. Again, very, very strong champion. If you get the opportunity to really take over a lane with it, then you can feel very, very happy. The Tristana's locked in as well, and of course, that's strictly a flex. Jezu, we know, is a big Tristana player, but can, of course, go towards that mid lane, which is where we've often seen the Tristana of late. I think that is just a straight Wukong lock-in, and yes, there's been the nerfs, but it still feels like some junglers really like the comfort engage on it.
Is we are in for a brawl already. Renekton swinging with the Cold Meek and Gore Drinker in the middle of everyone. Wukong doing the same thing. Feathers being pulled back. Rumble Equalizer trying to cook everyone in that same range as well. this is going to be a bit of a meat grinder, even with just these champions locked in.
Very much so. You can see exactly how that's all planning, and now it's kind of, what do they want to get rid of on both sides? It is the kind of removing some of those flex options for the Tristana, saying, look, let's get rid of the Kalista, a lane dominant champion, and taking that out of the way in case they did want to move that Tristana towards the mid lane. It's a Cassiopeia away from Frescovi.
That's one of the few good matchups versus Tristana left, actually. And so, like, one of the problems about Tristana is that for the longest time, the last few years, its mid lane has been a battle of can you get push, can you just kind of dominate the lane and pin back the enemy mid laners so they can never respond to something happening on the map. Tristana pushes so well, but the Cassiopeia can actually trade very well in return. So removing that, it's a bit of a niche pick, but it does work. We've seen players like Nuclear in the early seed use it well.
I mean, you can see that being a potentially scary one, especially for Frescovi being competent on the champion to say, look, we don't want to deal with that. Something like a Jace, something like an Azir is what we've often seen in for Tristana, which can get a little scary if you mess up your positioning or mess your ult on the Azir. Suddenly Tristana gets free reign to jump in, but you can certainly play those matchups, and we've seen a fair amount of it. I wonder whether that becomes the go-to here.
I wonder if something like Ahri or Nico could also help though, because you've got a very early game composition already with stuff like the Renekton and the Wukong. So you have full AD with lots of CC. Ahri can do a little bit of damage here.
It's going to be an Frost.
I'm aware that we've seen a bit of that, but if you see players, of course, like say, can do great things on the outlays, I'm just saying there's a chance. Jazzu hovering over a second AD carry. Doubt the Vayne is going to come through, especially in a composition like this. But Jazzu, you expect to go towards the double marksman, I think, at this point. I think the Tristana is fine against the Ahri in terms of individual lane matchup. And now this is going to be a big problem. This Alistar has huge value. You now have double frontline, which are very tanky. Sejuani, tankiest champion in the jungle. Alistar, best frontline in terms of support champions too when their ultimates running. You need to play around that cooldown, but very good frontline. Now imagine you are a Wukong or a Renekton trying to lock down the first target, and they just won't die. Very important frontline lock-ins for Team Geo.
Indeed it is, and especially when you've got so much immediate follow-up between the Kai'Sa and the Rumble, in particular, their ability to throw skill shots from about half a mile away with the W and the Equalizer respectively. Response here, though, is going to be a bit of a throwback towards a Lulu for Alvaro to try and help keep particularly super alive on the Xayah. There's going to be a lot of things coming for the Xayah's head, and Lulu might help mitigate that somewhat.
I don't know what I think of Lulu into Alistar. I think Alistar, in terms of the laning phase, Lulu can get some push, but if you make a mistake and you get double combo, things get very difficult, and if you haven't landed multiple Glitter Lances or the help picks as well in terms of that poke damage, there is a chance of some difficulties in 2v2s. And then later into the game, this Lulu can save other people, but if they're the one picked, there is no saving that Lulu. So I think Movistar Riders, they want to make sure that they do take that lane advantage they can get, make sure the poke lands from the Xayah Lulu very early on, and make sure that they start snowballing and playmaking ahead of the game.
Keep our eyes on that. Of course, you have now got the double range matchup, as you're saying, so you could definitely start to abuse that as the Lulu Xayah and maybe try and fight against the Kai'Sa before she comes online against the Static Shiv, and wave clear gets a bit harder. And I guess the other thing is, you can just polymorph the cow as he comes on in. He turns from a cow into a bunny real fast.
That's true. I think you can cleanse a polymorph with the ult, because technically that cleanses all CC. So that can happen, but that's only post level 6, so we'll have to keep an eye about that one. But as we head into the Rift for our 4th game of the day, reminder that you can watch EMEA Masters over in the LEC Discord. There is a watch party going over there. I occasionally jump scare them, jump into there, see how they're doing.
No.
You could join.
Why would you do that?
Also get jump scared. It's almost October.
People are leaving the Discord watch party right now as a result of this.
Oops. Well done. My bad. Can't really do that while I'm here though, so you're safe for now. Watch it now.
Yeah, exactly. They can listen to us in multiple ways. What an extraordinary experience for you all. But we are, moments of madness aside, onto the Rift for the game, and nothing super crazy happening. It's just that 5-man fan. Maybe we'll see a slight late invade here from Lince to try and spot out Isma, who was debating going for maybe a Raptor start, but the sweeper comes on out. No, it's not. It's just a couple autos. Can't quite get that one away. So ward remains, though it is a known quantity.
It is, and it means that you at least can play with the information that they know when you're crossing over that Raptor pit. You can sometimes make a bit of a different play to either cross over to the other side of the Rift or go red into Krugs and then keep your pathing hidden just a little bit longer. But sometimes you just have to take that out and say, look, just going to farm effectively. It's fine. We have strong lanes anyway. And on the side of Movistar Riders, they do have strong lanes. I mean, the Ahri taking the bone plating, but so does the Tristana. So they both know that they can take these heavy trades early as they try to take control of the lane.
Exactly that, and that will be Certainly a huge part of the plan. Still, though, nothing super unusual or scary happening right now. Both junglers kind of just doing a bit of a clear, looking for where they're going to be their first option. You can see ISMA didn't start the Raptor, start on the red early to avoid the being spotted on the ward. Will likely be spotted on the way back, but the kind of idea on which side of the map ISMA is on is probably still roughly a known.
Yeah, that's going to be known. On the other side, Linces, I want to talk about him as, not just in this game, but as an individual as well, because Linces was one of the players that won the NLC on Dusty, and then they lost a grueling 5-game series to LDLC OL last summer, which knocked them out in the semi-finals, I believe that one was. And that was a crushing defeat for them, but Linces was always really on the radar after that point, even before. I think everyone knew that this guy was such a talent. He was such a different jungler. He plays stuff like that to Lear. He's back on the Sejuani now, and I think as he's come into Team Geo and come into the LFL, he has shown he's not just a one-season wonder. He's continuing to be a real threat. And now he has a chance with the Sejuani to really be the front foot, the engage for his team here. Yeah, and then you're looking at the other members of the team around him as well. You know, Ragnar, Takui, Jezu, even Camilius. Those are some very storied, very potent names. Takui and Jezu in particular, of course, have been up and performed relatively well at Tier 1. You know, Takui's time in the LCS was pretty well regarded. Jezu had a pretty decent run at the time on SK's main roster as well. I remember his Kalista.
Oh, yes. I mean, it was banned.
Kalista Jones.
Oh, yes. That was when you were super excited to see like the standard max on the Jarvan to get like
Jarvan's support with Kalista was so fun because like you had great all in. The attack speed for Kalista is apparently really strong. Attack speed from Lulu, no, similarly less strong though from the likes of Isaiah.
Polymorph doing its work there, and Jezu forced to cleanse pretty early on in this lane, and the pressure may force a bit of a retreat, at least early on, as Linces, I think, is a known quantity by the ward down there. But this could be a dive onto Marky with that big wave.
So there was a red ping. There's no rage right now. Marky needs to get empowered Q, I think, really to get enough HP to outlast this dive. Remember, Rumble is melee, can overheat.
Split screen. Isma's going to dive on the bot side as they're getting some damage by Linces. Nice away, but we'll go 1-for-1. On the bot side, Alvaro goes down. It's getting a bit of a disaster as Camillus will get a headbutt away, but Isma survives. I think that will just be a 1-for-1 on both sides of the map. Jezu falls, and Marquis will be trade out Linces on the other side as well.
Okay, so Kai'Sa losing farm, Renekton losing farm, Ragnar ahead. And sadly on the other side, it's Alvaro that gets the kill. I suppose both supports get the kill, so it's even out in regards to kill goal towards that bot side. Which free play are we getting? We're getting the bot side one. We saw the top side in live. So this is very early pathing from ISMA, and despite those early wards we highlighted on that clear, they managed to get towards this bot side and get a kill onto this bot lane. Getting a kill onto one of these double AD carries in the, double marksman comp can start putting them behind the curve. You really want to be ahead of the game when you're playing around double marksman to start pushing in waves and taking advantageous fights.
And credit to Camilius there, gets a double pulverize into the trample proc onto the Lulu as they flash away to just seal them under tower and get one back at least. So, credit there where it's due. But of course, very even trades there, literally mirrored across the map in terms of the kill scores. I believe First Blood went the way of the LFL's reps, but I think it was Ragnar who picked that one up. So good news for the Rumble, who's feeling very happy in this lane. Of course, now has run for the teleport, not the ignites. We have seen some of those. Camillus finds another one of those two-man headbutts, but the feather pullback afterwards,
you don't have ult yet, buddy.
It's really rough, so the trade back is pretty extreme.
So you know that thing you said about, you can just polymorph the Alistar as he goes in? That's exactly what just happened. Loses the grand majority of his HP. He has Flash and he has Ignite. He's on Vision, but do they say Flash? I don't think they do.
Flash pulse headbutt. Camillus just styling on him. Gets one kill there for his team. Takui's roamed down as well, so not going to be too much more to trade.
The first few minutes of this game have basically been about junglers slipping the net of vision. Yes, they have been tracked to some degree, but when they actually end up in the lanes like we saw just there, Super and Alvaro just didn't see Linces alongside the low health Camillus. They thought they could take down the Alistar. They would have been able to if they'd done that. Takui escapes with a buster shot.
Nice attempt there. Can't quite make it happen, but the health bar's shaded. And that'll be the end of that for now. Dragon was an attempt there briefly, but it's just been stopped off from again. And now maybe Isma will give a look at it. He's back down there with Alvaro, maybe looking into that as Linces. Actually also having a quick hover around mid lane to see whether Frisco oversteps.
Does have no flash.
How's the ult?
Has the ult, and it will be used. So that Spirit Rush cooldown going to be down. So less all-in threat from the side of Friscawi. There is a chance that the next fight of the game, ult traded towards top side maybe. Marky popping the Dominus.
And trades through the slice, and the man just queues and he's gone!
Well, that's how you play a Renekton into Rumble, I guess. You know how I said, they traded ults. I mean, there was no equalizer, so that one wasn't able to be used, and suddenly Marky gets the kill on the dive, gets the kill individually. Pawn for him.
been a bit greedy about teleporting back and had kept it alive and wasn't there with the best items and gets absolutely eviscerated. Marky feeling very pleased about that one. We'll get the teleport out in response. Well, now gets to go back, claim the spoils of his kill with a couple more longswords in his inventory and head back to lane, feeling very smug.
He gets himself those Mercury Threads as well, which is very important versus the Sejuani in the Rumble 2. Gonna get a replay of what happens here. What happens? Is this just a recall cancel? It's a recall spotted. Ragnar goes into overheat, but if you go... The thing about a Renekton is, when they have empowered abilities, it's like double the strength of any other ability, particularly before first item, which means he's firing basically six abilities for the price of 3 from the Rumble. Gets absolutely blasted.
Hell of a deal. Can I get that at my local supermarket?
Only if you are a lizard. You are not a lizard.
Sad to say. Fair enough. Thought I was a lizard person for a moment there, but you should know as my brother. There you go. Anyway, Takui.
Sam, I've been waiting 27 years to tell you this.
You're adopted.
We are 1 game in of a potential...
We're 7 minutes.
We're 7 minutes in of a potential 6 games title from the back half of this day. We've had 3 already, of course, which have kept the 4-way tiebreaker in the balance. And as we're going into this now, we are still very close. It's not really led to any big advantages so far. The first dragon of the game hasn't even gone down. Herald is up. Typically, fighting around Herald is a question of whose R buttons are better. I think in this case, it's fairly even.
I agree.
Most of the time I say Renekton wins, Herald fights are free, and you can see why. He just absolutely slaughters the first person in front of him. But something like a Wukong with ultimate, something like an Ahri as well, very dangerous. Marky going for another one.
The equalizer after is rough, though. Marky did not enjoy this. Another solo kill, potentially, but Ragnar doesn't feel quite confident enough to go for a flash or a trade in with those harpoons.
I think Ragnar might have just mistimed Marky's ultimate. It was coming up a couple of seconds afterwards, but because no teleport now and no HP to work with from Marky, I think this is going to be a Team Geo Herald. Isma's taking a look, and he has level 6 to level 5, so Linsis, no Glacial Prison.
He's a camp or so behind, so it's going to be a spot above there, but actually Rumble can come on down and make that so much bait onto Isma. There's nowhere to go.
Well, that's why you shouldn't have gone towards that Herald. There was no one coming. Even if you pop that Cyclone, it was always going to be a very difficult moment because you were alone in the river. Couldn't lock up both of them. Suddenly, you've got not just the Herald going over now, which is going to be even less contested, but even more gold to the side of Team Geo.
Turns out the Song of Ice and Fire is just Rumble and Sejuani pairing up their various abilities to do insane amounts of damage.
Does that mean they can actually finish a book this game? I'm not sure the other guy
considering the amount of tiebreakers, I think I'm not sure that counts. This series is getting extended.
Oh my word. In the game of EMEA Masters, you qualify or you die, apparently. Not really sure that's how the quote was meant to go. But hey, we're working with that one for now. We have a bit of a rotation towards mid from Movistar Riders. They, of course, have to be aware now that Herald can be dropped against them. They need to be very careful about overcommitting to one side of the map, especially if Linsis is in position to punish elsewhere.
Especially because there's been a couple plates dropped topside. You wonder whether Ragnar might be gifted that Herald to really get that Rumble ahead of the curve. Not going to be quite the case as yet. And, instead, we saw a bit of a roam through the side of Go's jungle from the mid-jungle support of Movistar Rise, get some of that vision down, kind of help spot out Linsis, as you were saying, because where he goes with that Herald will probably be the next port of call, especially with Dragon up and available as a potential additional price.
I think that's why Isma needs to be very careful about making active plays, because if you lose a play now, suddenly it's a whole turret gone, and Linsis has smelled this out too.
Oh, the flash is good. It keeps that Sejuani away from anybody of importance. Isma's rooted up. In goes everybody else, though. The Camillus will surely die. Super gets a kill onto the cow, and that will be a 1-for-none trade in the bot lane.
Bold play from the Superliga team, but it works out for them. Linsis smells out the play first, so it evens up in a 3-for-3, but the extra teleport turns the tables. That means that the Herald can't be dropped for free in bot lane into the hands of Jezu. It means that Team Geo, they need to take a step back, and they now have a couple of ultimates missing for themselves as well. Movistar doing a good job of denying the potential earliest Herald drop.
Also, credit to Jezu there for escaping with the killer instinct back over the wall to where the Wukong was going. Yep, nope, we're out of this now. Quick killer instinct to escape, because those instincts were saying this one's probably not a fight you're going to win.
Survivor's instinct.
Survival instincts, exactly.
Different flavor of that one. And Jezu, of course, on this Kai'Sa will be going for that Shiv first. We're not sure, of course, whether that will go straight into AP afterwards. You can see stuff like the Nash's Tooth beyond that point. Something we've seen with the Tristana and this Kai'Sa, though, is as much as Movistar are trying to deny some of the bigger plays right now, as we saw kind of IZMA trying to sniff out the next big play on the map. But if you get double shivs on your AD carries, Movistar, if they're going to try and make plays, need to deal with 2 auto-losing lanes because you cannot contend with that shove. Once one item comes through, it's very important that Movistar Riders can stop that wave push, just constraining their options too much.
And you can sort of see that's why Movistar Riders went for something like the Lulu in part, because it just gives you, at least early on, the ability to get some shove in that lane and make sure the Kai'Sa's ability to get to that static shift is at least a little delayed, is down a fair amount of CS. At this point, it has given a bit of a... What's the word
reprieve.
here? Yeah, reprieve. Exactly that word. Thank you very much, mate. And just that breather needed to try and get you something rolling in the early game. Of course, it has been a very even early game, and you can see it in the gold score, in the kill score. Really is kind of a couple of objectives that have gone the way of Team Geo, but that's kind of the only difference right now. IZMA is towards this top side, but so are Takui and Linsis in the river, and Marky just takes a really awkward trade there. That's going to hurt. Does have the teleport. With a Herald available to be dropped from Linsis, gonna get the equalizer out. Dominus is down as well. This is rough stops for Movistar. Flash is on in, gets the W. Maybe I spoke too soon. Flash away from Ragnar alongside the scrap shield keeps him alive, but the summoners had to be popped on both sides of these top laners. Over comes Skovy, who has popped the ult early on. Takui trying to body block, will not quite make it work. Still can't quite get the kill. Ragnar is still alive, puts out so much fire damage. It's a 1-for-1 right now as Marky gets rooted up. Surely the permafrost comes on down and the crocodile is turned into a pair of boots, and Takui picks that one up.
Movistar Riders just didn't have the HP at the start of the fight to make things work long-term through it. Marky does his best, but he just doesn't have the HP. Now suddenly Team Geo, they find themselves a little bit more gold in pocket. I think on the other side, the Ahri getting some gold, it's fairly nice. You've now got 3 Dark Seal stacks on the other side. But it does feel like Team Geo, with still that Herald to put down, which has now been shoved into mid lane as well, finally starting to get that gold lead, which was promised from that objective earlier.
Yes, it is, and of course it all goes into a Tristana. One of those other people who is really good when you throw a Herald in their lane. Bot side, teleport is coming on in, and now everyone's going to be here. Multiple teleports someone Camillus has had early on, as Marky just deletes Jezu. No chance to flash or cleanse. Camillus still pretty low, gets a double pulverize, but it's not going to mean that much as Ragnar starts burning people down though. It's double kill to Marky, but Super is in danger, but the feathers come flying on through, and they'll carve this mech into pieces. Finally, Feather Storms to avoid the kill back, and it's a 3-for-1 in the bot lane in favor of Movistar Riders.
Did we expect anything less from LFL versus the Superliga? These regions, they just love to fight. Movistar Riders, after that lost play and then having so many plays lost in the mid lane too, this is a huge moment for them. You can see that the teleport comes deep behind the Zaya, but there's no equalizer in this fight. Ragnar's coming in with overheat nothing, and don't get me wrong, I think that Rumble does have a lot of good DPS even without that ultimate coming through, but the fact that he can't immediately get onto Super means that the Zaya gets to stack up lethal tempo, gets to keep using the Lulu buffs throughout this fight as well, and continually put out the damage, which of course Jezu can't. He was taken down too early.
He was absolutely deleted, had no option there to use any of his abilities because his health bar just, was removed very, very swiftly. Now, though, we have got those 2 shivs you were talking about. That means 2 auto-losing lanes, or at least 2 auto-shoving lanes. IZMA is going to pair up with this Lulu to try and contest for these Raptors, but over comes Jezu, and Movistar Riders decide maybe this is a little bit too far for a lot of chickens.
Okay, so second Herald is coming up in 20 seconds. I think with the point of power that currently Marky finds himself at with the Gore Drinker and the Merc Treads, that would be very powerful for him. Ragnar, no teleport, no ultimate, now just used on the wave as well. I was wondering when that one was going to come out. Does feel like with this amount of people on the bot side of the map, Geo can get themselves this Herald for free, and sadly for the side of Movistar, they can't really get the cross map they wanted.
Lensis does at least manage to get a hold of this Herald, as you were saying. Movistar will get some shove in with Super, who's having a very good game on the side. 2-0 and 3, up a hefty amount of CS, and is certainly in position now after that bot side play to make things happen. Ragnar is going to be jumped on. That dive is obscene, and the Rumble dies again.
Doesn't have flash, doesn't have ultimate, and this is the sad situation of a Rumble on weak side. We've seen it with the likes of the Shy over the LPL, we've seen it elsewhere in the world. A Rumble can clear waves, but you've only got 1 ultimate. You don't have a Zhonya's this early into the game either. Heck, you don't tend to build that at all nowadays.
Just damage.
Despite him being such a powerful carry for Team Geo over this season, and just in the LFL, such a titan in general, he's having a bit of an awkward game. However, The rest of his team picking up something with the Heralds.
Yeah, Takui did get rid of that top lane tier 1. Linces drops that Herald they claim to claim the tier 2 as well. So the punchback is good. And as you can see, the gold remains pretty damn close to even. The game remains pretty damn close to even. And even like that top lane where a lot of the blood has been spilled with those two champions involved, they're pretty much even in gold. It just flicked over 100 in favor of Marquis. So that probably tells you exactly how close this game is.
Yeah, the only real difference are between the two different carry roles in mid and bot lane. You can see that Scovi trying to be utility in this game, trying to add into that lockdown. Does mean you're going to fall off at some point. You're going to be hitting squishy targets, yes, but the rest of your team is going to struggle to especially take down the Sejuani and the Alistar at some of the key moments. However, with that lacking amount of gold, the question is whether they would have done that damage anyway. We're onto that dragon. Items, breakpoints, Movistar. They would love to stop this neutral stacking from Team Geo.
Jazu in the mid lane, go kind of retreat out of the river. Maybe think you can test this one in Ragnar, in position with an ultimate available. Marquis on a flank, has now spotted out, does get engaged. I'm going to try and turn on the Renekton. Big stun onto the Ahri, who immediately has to ult cleanse away, trying to keep herself alive. Marquis knocked up, does get the ultimate off, but finally burns down. The Crocodile is dead. Isma's clone dies too. Dragon secured by Movistar Raiders, but it does cost them their top laner's life.
Isma does have himself Cyclone now, but Rumble still very scary himself. Has flash in 5 seconds if he wants to do something truly.
Flash on Camilius.
In that sense, Camilius does have that as well. This is Sejuani waiting for the wings too.
He got over the wall by Flash and they want to be here in time. He's in an awkward spot. That Flash is down. He's not here in time. It's a 1-for-1, but now in comes that Sejuani. They get the shutdown as well and another reset as the rocket shots continue to fire. And it might not be rocket science, but it is League of Legends. The teleports begin to fly. And that will be Friscovi coming back, gets the charm, but it's onto the Sejuani, who will surely burn down here, does so. And they do get one more back. Friscovi gets a Foxfire off, and I'm not even sure how many kills that was. I think it was relatively even.
I mean, there are 2 people on either side dead right now, but do you include the Dragon fight before that?
Exactly.
We had another kill go around, but either way, we are starting to see, again, Takui picking up a large amount of gold, at least. Ahri managed to pick up a little bit of return from the side of Friscovi as well. Going into this replay though, going straight into what happens around this dragon. You can see that Camilius, he looks at that Renekton and says, I can't really go for a combo beyond the Renekton, because then the Renekton's free to go into my backline. They do manage to take them down. Problem is that you don't have the real opportunity to chase everyone beyond that point. I think Movistar Riders, I think they overstay a little bit more, and you're absolutely right, Linces maybe thought there was a ward somewhere in those bushes, flashes for reasons that we will only leave to himself, and at least gets involved with the play. Of course, he goes down into the turret after this stuff. Bloody fight.
Half wondered for a second there, was looking for the Flash ultimate, but the ult was down from the fight before, so looks a little overzealous either way. Gets caught at the end here with the charm as well. Makes another kill come back, as both of these teams, as we've been saying, have been very, very willing to pull their teleports to make the brawls happen. You said it was going to be a bloodbath. It's been just that. This mid-lane tower finally falls. The teleports begin to fly from Scovi. Misses the Everfrost, but does land the charm on the Jazu.
Oh,
He away. Takui on the other side, though, begins to free fire. The Equalizer does so much work. A hop and a skip from Takui, who is just throwing out explosive charge after explosive charge. And Team Go wipe that fight. That's not even at all. It's just a haymaker.
Oh, Takui, what a star in the mid lane. Picks up the Tristana, the meta champion in the mid lane right now. And absolutely explodes the map. He has taken down so many towers and so many champions. And with him still alive, and of course, double AD carries being alive on this roster, they can get themselves even more turrets. They get to back off through the enemy jungle, get themselves a free reset. Team Geo in one fell swoop take huge control of the mid-section of the map.
Game that had been so back and forth is suddenly very heavily in favor of Team Geo, up now a few thousand gold. And we'll have a look at this replay, because you can see Emeros really wanted this mid lane tower.
That they did, and they did end up staying for an extra auto to Friscovi tried to stick around for the extra auto and then get an Everfrost onto someone important, but when you're going for the Everfrost build, you need someone to follow up. He was alone. He couldn't really finish up the kill himself, and then goes down for the attempt. That unlocks resets, that unlocks the chase down beyond that point, and suddenly now you have lost all of the mid lane towers in response to just the one you took on the other side.
My days, that's a lot of rumble damage. You said the Equalizer was good. You can see it there in the damage.
And he does have himself that ultimate. Back up yet again. putting yourself in that danger zone in terms of
Always
heat.
time.
I think Movistar Riders, I think they can feel a little bit of the pressure. They're starting to lose a lot of these fights. Let's see if they can force one better for themselves around this Baron.
Skovy is off vision for now, but I think there is that ward just around the corner which will have spotted, and they're kind of aware, and Camillus is the one warding that Ari off. Marky taken down about half HP by incidental poke. My day's pretty rough. Camillus goes all for Skovy, gets to the backside, gets a charm onto the rumble. That's a huge target. I think it's going to be a 1-4. No, wait, that was Isma's clone that died in trade. Lince is now in danger, needs to run away. That's the jungler, he's gone. And suddenly the fight is very much in favor of Movistar Rider. Flash on in from Marky, gets Buster shot away, but the charm lands on the Skui, who just found his gates. But no, Isma bombs him down with a Q on the Monkey King. Now Jezu needs to run away. It is a huge, huge fight for Movistar Riders. Flash, charm, gets the last one, and Jezu is dead as well. A triple to Isma. Baron is spawned, and they'll take the purple worm. And guess who's in their favor now?
It is more than just a light at the end of the tunnel. Movistar Riders, they are already 1-0 versus Team Geo. They took the first round of this matchup. They're going to take a Baron against the grain of this game. They're swimming upstream against what felt like the unending tide of the last few fights from Team Geo and the LFL. This is a very weird way to start the fight. Normally you think, hey, Equalizer when the MR Shred is already happening from Baron, that's good value. Friscovi is, of course, on vision here as well. You do use your full combo here, though, on Camillus. And it's not like the Ari really worries about the combo beyond that point. They manage to get the CC that they need to. Wukong is therefore free to engage as well. They run over the fight with resets and their second round of cooldowns.
After this, the catch onto Takui is so good.
It is, and a lot of that's fueled by those resets. It's fueled by that second round of cooldowns because they're playing a fighting retreat, but playing a fighting retreat against a team with more move speed and more mobility than you, it doesn't work out well. And despite the good fights before this point, suddenly Team Geo, they need to rack their brains a little bit to stave off this Baron pressure. The gold difference is not that much, but when you're playing around these double shivs, trying to clear out Baron minions, it negates that a fair amount.
Super having a fantastic fight, and of course all's fair in love. War and Ari certainly blends the two, landing some phenomenal jumps, and that one gets both AD carries across that fight with some really key jumps. Now they've got Baron, they've brought the gold back to their favor from being down 3,000 gold. They're getting a huge shove in, and a lot of those structures they were struggling to get elsewhere, they are managed to trade back. At least in the picture-in-picture you can see Takui continues to do what Fed Tristanas can do, which is shove very aggressively onto those towers, and Equalizer comes out to try and stall this shove in on the inhibitor turrets.
Okay, so see how powerful this Aya is right now. Has had the lead over Jezu for the entire game. Jezu's waiting on a Luden's Echo. Lince is going for the engage.
It's a big one! That's huge. Super will get one go down, forced to ult. Will stay alive though, as Isma is also going to Cyclone. But that's a lot of ults down, that's a lot of summoners down. And that shove is going to be stymied as a result.
You just had to look at the summoners for Super and realize, you know, he's running that heal, it's not that cleanse. How do they get out of it? But this is the value that the Lulu gives. And then also the counter engage to just try and CC some of the diving targets. Isma doing a good job at that point. And yes, that Mikhail's very important now. The next time that happens, it's not just going to be the shields, it's going to be the cleanse as well. Well pointed out.
And the Bloodthirst just gets completed as well. Suddenly that move looks very different now, 10 seconds later. We're waiting on 3.5 minutes or so until the Dragon could spawn. It's 2-1 in those. It was started very late. And this game, you feel like one team's got it, and suddenly someone punches right back.
Look, Sam, I'm not saying this happened yesterday, but it did happen yesterday.
Yeah.
In the other group. And now we see Lince is caught out, CC.
Polymorphed as well. He's going to have to wait on that one, but we'll get to Arctic Assault of the Wall. The Ignite came down as well. Isma's going to try and get onto Camillus. We'll throw down the crushing blow. Marky looking for the flank on in. Ragnar is going to be here. Can look to maybe turn this one around. And in the end, the teleport is summoned, but nothing really gets out of that. Starts a little bit more as the Equalizer comes down. Super gets burned down by about a third of his HP bar. Tower and mid lane does fall at the dregs of the Baron, helping them do that. Star Riders, they pull a few summoners, and they get themselves a tier 2, but no one dies.
No one dies, and that will be coming up to the end of that Baron buff. Down it goes. 3 minutes until it spawns again. 3 minutes until the Dragon spawns again. 2 different timers for those objectives. As you were saying, the Dragons are 2-1. They were started a little bit late, as in favor for the Herald instead. And that means that we're not going to get ourselves an early soul beyond this point. Gold is even enough. Map state is honestly even enough. Yeah, how's the stakes? That Baron that Baron allows Movistar an extra lease on life, but they were in a pretty difficult spot before that point. What I'm interested in seeing now is that now the Baron is down, the shivs start coming back into play again. You get to stop pushing those waves again. This last few minutes, you can't compare it to the next couple after this point.
These are very, very long, very, very exposed lanes because there's no outer turrets remaining. They're all gone on both sides, so these lanes can get shoved in very, very hard, and the map can get very, very dark if you start to lose control of those waves, if you start to mess up your vision setups, as you have to sort of no longer rely on the safety your turrets can bring you in terms of controlling lane states.
This was going in towards that top side on pulled.
Flash from Ragnar, 3 seconds on his own ultimate, so can't trade it back quite yet, but now can think about it maybe. Takui will hop on over the wall. There's the equalizer. A little bit ambitious there. I think as much as they think they were hoping for.
That's haha, I have a Night Harvester. You have been cropped. Ooh, my mythic item damage.
Haha, I'm just, stacking my numbers. You've seen how much damage I've done this game.
Oh, man.
In fact,
I'm going to assume that's not actually what went through his head, but I like to believe.
Yeah, exactly. It's much more fun this way. As the arbiters of justice and truth in this universe, you get to say that. It's fine.
Do you get to say who wins this game? Do we get
I wouldn't do that. I mean, I do know.
Does the Arbiter of Justice prefer 1 or 3 tiebreaker games?
3.
3 tiebreaker games, right.
But do I always get what I want? That's the question.
Time will tell. I'm not going to answer that. That sounds too philosophical.
Time will tell, because we're finishing super late at that point. We are going to be here a while.
That we will, but of course, a couple more games yet to go. 3 more left in the standard planning of this group, and of course in the standard planning of this game. Starting to see Team Geo trying to take control of some of these waves yet again. It is really all about, can they get themselves safe pushing lanes? I think most of the riders, they have had a good response to it. Look towards the top quadrant vision control. If you're starting to push up even mid lane, but also top lane as well, there are moves like this where if you over push, you can get shoved down on. That's why Takui, even though he can kill waves super quickly, doesn't feel comfortable walking up too far in the lane.
Rightly so, because he's got that ward over the wall there, and that sweeper will spot out both of them there, as Ismo was looking to see whether Takui would step too far forward, but was on vision while doing so.
Oh yes, Luden's completed.
Yeah, 3 items on Kaiser.
Kaiser has become the main character. Fantastic.
Yeah, the artillery station is online. Beginning to fire from the other side of the rift and begin to really throw down that hurt. Baron, though,
I think
about
by
to
the
spawn.
time your teammates arrive, this AD carry will be fully operational. See if they can fire a Proton Torpedo onto this Baron on spawn. All systems go.
Into the River Moon of Endor we go to find the Baron. As they find that one down about 6,000 HP. Being burned down pretty fast, but now the turnaround begins. Big Cyclone. The Lulu will come down as well, before it's got to be taken desperately low. Flash away from Lintus, who's burning down, but just about alive. Staying away, can't quite be taken down. Now Takui has to hop away. My days for Scobby just about alive on the other side as well. Big head, but pulverized. Takui flashes on in, gets the kill, gets the resets. The health bar Solesma gets the Steric shielding, trying to stay alive, but of course, it's the clone. And the health bars are more so ready. Oh no, Jazzu! Ults on in and gets rid of Super. He's dead. AD carry down. Mid lane and down to the health bars in favor of the LFL. Another one as he gets the W reset. They get all of the carries and they get straight back to Baron and claim their own this game.
It is a tale of 2 Barons. Movistar Riders had so much with the first one, but much like Carmine Core the other day, one fight, blink and you miss it. The LFL on top.
It has been on a knife's edge and it has certainly cut both ways, but teams bleeding, teams bruised, but it's looking like Team Geo are the ones that will be evening up the head-to-head, will be moving to 3 and 2. They've got a Nexus ahead of them and glory in their eyes. Tiebreaker scenarios may still remain, but Geo strike first in this battle to remove themselves from the group of death.
Bring themselves to 1 and 1 with the Superliga team in their group. It has been a very back and forth tournament for so many of the teams we've seen across the group stage. We've seen Carmine Core get pushed to a tiebreaker. We have seen Matchco go 6-0 in that same group. We've seen so many stories of triumph and some real trials for them as well. Team Geo, they're on the same keel now as the rest of this group. They started out on 2 and 2 pretty much just in the game before that point. They get themselves ahead of that curve now.
They really, really do. It's kind of a really important one as well, considering, as we said, this group is very much determined by head-to-head. It is very much determined by who gets the better out of this one. And just got word from production as well that the interview is ready with the victorious support. Camillus, are you there, mate?
I am here, guys. What's up? Can you hear me?
We can hear you indeed. So, Camillus, you just walked away with a win over the Superliga. This is a historic rivalry in the ERLs. Typically, it's been owned by the LFL, but you lost that first matchup in the group stage. What was it like preparing for the return matchup against Movistar Riders?
Well, there was not a special preparation. You know, you only have like 1 day off, and we just scrimmed normally. Since we have 3 games played on 1 day, so it's not really a preparation for one team, right? So I don't think we did anything special. You know, just like the first day.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, both of these comps were designed to brawl. They did a lot of that. I think we had 31 kills at 24 minutes, which is an insane bloodbath. As a player in this scenario, as an Alistair in this scenario, who's going to be kind of involved in a lot of fights, starting off a lot of those fights, what's kind of going through your head when you've kind of been winning some fights, you've been losing some fights, Baron's gone down, and the game has kind of devolved into a lot of like really chaotic brawls?
Yeah, I think we were a bit quite panicking in comps. I think we were more nervous than we had to be, and we didn't really play our team comp well. I think we brutally outranged Kai'Sa. All we can do is just dance around him and make sure no one touches him, right? And he can just carry solo. But we were kind of going in, and we were being a lot impatient. Like, you know, we aced them one fight, and then we get aced on Baron, which I don't think should happen. I mean, I tried to... Like, my job is to mark Ahri, right? And I tried to mark him when he was behind the wall, but I mean, I thought we can one-shot with Tristana, but he just jumps in and kills my team. It was kind of weird. Like, I felt bad, you know, for my team. I kind of sold them. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it was not that hard if we look at it with clearer mind. But in the game, it's best of ones. It's group stage, group of dead. You know, one game you lose, you're out. So it's a bit stressful, you know. So I mean, looking back at it and thinking about it now, I think it was really easy to play. We just need to be more calm next time we face a situation like this.
Okay, so you've been very open about some of the things that you need to walk away from and maybe improve going from this. With that in mind, I think any team coming from the LFL realistically sees themselves as tournament contenders. If you compare that kind of statement saying LFL teams, we are good enough to win the tournament based off of some of the mistakes that you think you've been making, how far do you think you need to improve now to be that contender? And how confident are you that you can make those changes?
Well, I'm confident because I don't think the changes are that big. Like, I think we are overall doing pretty good. At least first day we did. And game 1 today against Unicorns, I think we just had a not good draft and we didn't play good level 1, and then it was rough. I think it's just a draft diff. But overall, I think we're pretty good. Even the first lose against Movistar Riders, we were smashing them hard. It's just that I would say that we are not thinking clearly much. Like, I think we just need to sometimes take a step back and breathe, and we just play with calm mind. And honestly, it's just like small details, you know. I think there's not that big of things we need to fix, in my opinion. Just a couple of small changes, details, and I'm pretty sure we are contender of the tournament.
Thank you so much for the candidness there. Really appreciate the mindset into yourself and the rest of Team Geo. We'll let you go. Of course, you've got some very important games ahead of you, and we'll wish you the best of luck.
Yeah,
sure. We'll be seeing you later.
Thanks, guys. Was nice having you. Yeah, have fun casting.
It's always fun getting to cast the LFL teams and getting to cast in this tournament.
I was going to say it's always fun getting to cast with me, but no.
You're okay, buddy. Anyway, well, that kind of game, I think that started off at least the back half of the day with some real intensity. We're now, of course, at a point where these two teams have won. And that, I don't know whether that's a gold graph or an EKG machine, because that heart, it does look like it's going under cardiac arrest.
Yeah, it does. And you can see it there in the damage. Ragnar putting out fast quantity on the Rumble. But honestly, for large portions, I felt like the Xayah was kind of untouchable. If they were making the engages happen, the Wukong was getting some very scary positions. You saw the Baron shove. You're thinking, well, actually, Movistar not in a bad position here. But you can see just with how visceral some of those swings were. Neither team absolutely the cleanest when they had their leads.
Initially, we saw some leads through bot lane for the side of Movistar Riders. Super continuing to be a real threat for his team, but I think really Takui was the person who I had my eyes on for so long. Tristana, very powerful champion, very powerful player in this game as well. That gave Team Geo a bridge to get towards the late game where finally Jezu on the Kai'Sa could start doing work with the Ludens after a certain point. We saw that Baron fumble earlier, this one right here where the combo knocks up the Ahri, but it doesn't one-shot. Briscovi manages to get over the wall and they start running away with the fights and the resets that they hadn't managed to cleanly find in team fights beyond that point. And Kimelius, again, very candid with us. I love when players are candid with us. There's not hovering over the mistakes, right? He said, yeah, it was my mistake. I kind of threw up a team under the bus. But then he's saying, okay, we can take a step back and we can fight back. after that point. They needed to in this game. They did it around the second Baron after this point right here. And this one went much better for them.
It did. And this is when they got to play fights on their terms, kind of playing their combat as it's supposed to be. Jezu and Takui free-firing from behind the safety of their pretty dangerous front line. And yes, Isma gets close. Yes, Marky gets close, but there's enough disengage, there's enough ability to peel back and keep the damage going that when they get that first kill, when the resets begin to happen for Takui, it is lights out for Movistar Riders.
It was, and it was a close game. Credit to the League team for making it close. I think we've known that ever since the era of Heretics and hell, even Bisons when they've been in the group stages as well. They have scrapped so well, but when you're going into team fights versus the LFL, if you give them those openings, they are very proficient at taking those openings.
Yeah, and it does leave us a very interesting position for our next game as well, of course, because Movistar Riders are the ones who will be coming up next. And of course, being now just off the back of a loss, they will want to bounce back to ensure that tiebreakers for themselves are still very much a possibility. We'll be here watching them play off against Unicorns of Love Sexy Edition after the break, so don't go anywhere.